Explosive development occurring with Melissa right now, and it is forecast to bring life-threatening conditions to Jamaica and other areas of the Caribbean over the next several days. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We are your home for Caribbean weather. It's nice to see you on this Saturday. I hope it was under much different circumstances. Coming up in this video, Melissa is already showing signs of explosive development here. We'll talk about what's happening with this storm, the evolution of this storm over the next several days, and the significant, devastating, life-threatening impacts, however you want to term it, in the highest regard for Jamaica and other areas with this storm. As always, Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the leading law firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. Wind, hail, hurricane damage, property damage of any kind, they'll walk you through the insurance claim process. Go to leanomelaw.com if you would like more information. So the crux of this video is to get out the pertinent information. If you are in the path of this storm, please take what I'm about ready to say very seriously. If you know anyone who lives in these areas or has interest in these areas, make sure you share this information with those as well. As of the recording of this video, Melissa is still a tropical storm. Winds are 70 miles an hour. It's moving west at 1 mile an hour. Pressure's down to 982. But I'm telling you right now, the current stats of the storm doesn't mean a thing, because even by the time I get done recording this, or by the time I upload this, Melissa could be a hurricane. It is already showing significant development. You can see those higher cloud tops, those whites and those purples. That is extreme thunderstorm activity beginning to encompass this storm. So explosive development is occurring as we speak. So it's not about what Melissa is right now, but what it could be in a 48 to 72 hour time frame before it directly impacts Jamaica. So again, we're likely to get a hurricane very quickly, and the Hurricane Center actually has Melissa becoming a major Category 3 hurricane before lunchtime on Sunday, and then a high-end Category 4 as we get into Monday and Tuesday. The cone of uncertainty encompasses Jamaica, so there is an extremely high likelihood we get a direct landfall from Melissa over Jamaica as a high-end Category 4. And I gotta tell you something, friends, it is not out of the question that this is a Cat 5 storm as it makes landfall into Jamaica. Right now, the forecast is for it to be the highest Category 4. The center line is basically down the middle of the island, just to the west of the Kingston area. We'll talk about how the landfall area could be dependent as far as the impacts that we see, but generally speaking, hurricane impacts and extreme major hurricane impacts are likely over Jamaica beginning late Monday and into Tuesday. So it's a hurricane warning, as you would imagine, for Jamaica. It's a hurricane watch and a tropical storm warning for southern Haiti. Means southern Haiti could see some tropical storm conditions. That's likely, and the potential for some hurricane force winds as well. So this is the track and the timing. It's the same thing that I just showed you, but with some of the time plots on here. Again, Melissa is likely to slowly meander west, south of Jamaica through the weekend, then begin a turn to the north during the day on Monday and accelerate over the island through Tuesday morning and afternoon, eventually bringing hurricane impacts to southeast sides of Cuba, central and the southeast sides of the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. And for all my friends who live in those areas, I promise you, we'll be talking about that potential coming up in this video, and obviously as we move through early next week as well. Looking at the arrival of tropical storm force winds, and this is important because generally when these 39 plus mile an hour sustained winds get into your area, all preparations need to be done. It's very hard to be trying to make last minute preps when you have some 40 and 50 mile an hour winds. That is likely to begin to arrive, especially in eastern Jamaica, late tonight and overnight, and then through the remainder of the island as we go through our Sunday. So preparations really need to be completed by the end of this Saturday. We'll see tropical storm conditions on the island on Sunday, and then hurricane conditions on Monday and Tuesday. And again, those hurricane conditions are likely to spread into the, especially southeast Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, southeast Cuba, but even as far north as the northern Bahamas, they could get some tropical storm conditions late Tuesday and into Wednesday as well. So interest in these areas should have all preparations completed. The Dominican Republic and Haiti, look, they have been battered by the winds and the catastrophic flooding. And we'll talk about that as well. Jamaica at this point in time is still okay. We've had some passing squalls, but it is what is to come with the significant flooding and the major hurricane force winds over the island. Again, if you live in Southeast Cuba, Central and Southeast Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos, make sure you stay very attuned to the progress of Melissa. So looking at, again, the center line track, it does take it through the central portion of the island. What could be significant about that is, first of all, I'm expecting the wind field, and this is just going to be an estimate, but let's take a look at a couple of things here. I'm going to bring up my distance tool. The first thing is that the westward progression of the storm is likely to be about 90 to 100 miles south of the island. And the reason why that could be a little bit important is it's more than likely not going to bring the hurricane conditions to the island tomorrow, because the hurricane force winds will likely stay far enough offshore. Now, you want to talk about already bringing in some swells and some rough sea conditions to the port, to the eastern sides of the island. That will commence beginning tomorrow, because we're going to have an onshore wind, the easterly winds with the storm. As a matter of fact, a lot of different things I'll do here, and you guys know I'm going to be streaming live probably the next 4 or 5 days in a row. We'll talk more about that coming up, but I can show you guys a lot of different things. This is the surface-based winds. So right now, wrapping around the center, you're going to have a northeast component to the wind, but eventually the winds will be a little bit more out of the due east, and that's going to start to pile up the water on the eastern side of the island to begin with, and that's before we even see Melissa begin to approach. So likely tropical storm conditions for tomorrow. When we look at the center line track, and again, this is just an estimate, but if we're talking about a Cat 4 to a Cat 5 hurricane, we're more than likely going to get hurricane force winds to extend at least 60 to 70 miles on the east side of the storm. That is likely to encompass all of the eastern side of the island with hurricane force winds as it moves inland. And then if, again, this ends up being the exact path, but we don't want to focus on this, but my point about this is that on the western side of the island, we are likely to have hurricane force winds at least 50 miles west of the center. When we were looking at, again, a massive hurricane like this, there is a very small chance that the far western parishes, Westmoreland and Hanover parishes, Savlamar, Negril, Lucy, Montego Bay, potentially could avoid hurricane force winds, at least sustained. Now, you need to be taking all the preps as well, but there is going to be a difference between where the storm goes on the east side compared to the west side in some ways. One thing that is likely to be very significant along in the eastern side of the storm is going to be the rainfall. The amount of rain that could fall, we're going to be measuring this in feet. You already see all of the moisture on the east side. We continue to have extensive flooding through the peninsula of Haiti. Port-au-Prince has had 40-mile-an-hour winds today, and they've been steady above 30 miles an hour this afternoon. Even Santiago de los Caballeros and Puerto Plata, right around 25-mile-an-hour winds. We've had, gusts on the southern side as well, and all of this is approaching the island. Now, this is a recorded video from a little bit earlier today from the See Jamaica YouTube channel. This is Halfway Tree. My friends in that area, again, things are okay right now. We've had some passing showers. You see folks are out and about. Hopefully they're finishing up preparations. Again, let me be very clear. Take this as seriously as you have any storm. Any storm that you've ever been on, if you live through some of the major ones in Jamaica, are likely to bring those kind of conditions or even worse. We're going to talk more about the messaging coming up, but you guys know I've been doing this for a long time. Been a television meteorologist for more than 25 years. This is about as high end of a potential impact to an area that I've seen when we're talking about a high end Cat 4 or a low end Cat 5. You can see the European model following the hurricane center to actually pull it over the central part of the island and then on the eastern side of the island through southeast Cuba and into the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos by Thursday, as a very powerful hurricane the entire time, losing some strength, but it's not out of the question that this is still a major Category 3 hurricane in the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos Wednesday and into Thursday. This is the HAFS-A model, our high resolution hurricane model, one of them. Again, note the maximum winds. Watch how we start to see the tropical storm conditions and even hurricane force conditions move into the island late Sunday and Monday. Then you get that turn north. Again, Cat 4 strength, moving inland right over the central part of the island near Hayes, Mandeville, May Pen areas, right across the island through southeast sides of Cuba and into the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. So the halves A in the European model are very much in a line with where the Hurricane Center has this, again, as a major hurricane. And in some ways, some of these models are even underdoing the intensity because they're not even initializing the storm with winds of already 70 miles an hour. This is the simulated radar from the storm. We'll pick it up mid-loop, but we'll pull it again. You're just going to see a storm that has the opportunity, because it's moving so slowly, to continue to bring feet of rain to the southern sides of the Dominican Republic, southwestern sides of Haiti, and all of Jamaica, especially the eastern parishes. Friends, I kid you not, when there is the opportunity for 2 to 3 feet of rain to fall in the eastern parishes, Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Thomas, Portland parishes, maybe St. Catherine, and even St. Mary, devastating, life-threatening flash flooding is likely to occur with Melissa because of the slow movement to begin with. And remember, you guys are on the north side of the storm. The northeast quadrant has the most rain and the strongest winds, and that is the quadrant of the storm that will impact the eastern part of the island the majority of the time. It's the worst case scenario for the eastern parishes, potentially avoiding the worst case scenario for the western parishes, but still devastating impacts are likely even as far west as Montego Bay and Negril. No one on Jamaica is going to be able to avoid this storm. Well, we just might see a bit of a gradient as to where the most extensive damage is if this path from the Hurricane Center rings true. And again, it's not, set in stone. It's just a line on a map, guys. We have to monitor this literally hour by hour. The H-Mon is closer with the storm on Sunday, so it actually tries to bring hurricane conditions across the island on Sunday and then move the storm just a little bit farther west. It's still a direct landfall in the western side of the island. And again, the H-Mon would bring more strong hurricane conditions to the western parishes, Westmoreland and Hanover parishes, and St. James and St. Elizabeth. And again, as we get into, it's a little bit quicker with the H-Mon, late Tuesday, Wednesday, we still have teetering on hurricane strength into the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. So there is some difference in the intensity of the storm when it gets into the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos, but the Hurricane Center right now has it as a Category 3. This is also troubling. The Google DeepMind model has done very well. 50 ensemble members running with this. I believe around 48 of them have this as a Category 5 making landfall over Jamaica. And you notice that all but one have a direct landfall over the island. Again, more cluster just west of Kingston, a secondary cluster a little bit west, but all of them over the island and as a Cat 5. It is not out of the question. Again, 155 mile an hour winds are just 2 miles an hour away from becoming a Cat 5 anyway. It's really semantics. It doesn't matter. Look, if something is going to get knocked down and destroyed in 160 mile an hour winds, it's going to 155. It's just more than anything how we categorize it, but not the impacts. The impacts are going to be the same if it's 140, 150, 160. When we look at the European rainfall totals in inches, again, these are your maximum rainfall totals that could fall. We're over 3 feet again, highlighted by the central and the eastern sides of the island, right? And then the southern sides of Haiti, where feet of rain could fall near Lacaille. We could have 1 to 2 feet of rain, 12 to 24 inches on the southern coastline of the Dominican Republic, from the Bajarona area on over towards Santo Domingo, even San Pedro de Macorís, maybe not as far east as Punta Cana, but still significant rain and flooding is likely to occur in those areas. The other big situation is going to be the devastating storm surge that is likely to occur. You're looking at wave heights right now. I'll take myself off camera, which are likely in the significant wave height category to approach 30 feet along the southern coast of the island. Right now, the Hurricane Center is calling for a storm surge in Jamaica on the eastern and the southern sides to be 7 to 11 feet above ground level, like 3 to 4 meters in some spots above ground level. If you live along the coast, on the east side or the southern side of the island, you might want to be considering getting away from the water. If you can imagine 12 feet of water at least coming with Melissa moving in with a storm surge. It's a wall of water that will come with the storm, and it will begin to creep up before the storm arrives, but will be most maximum as the eye passes to the area. And that storm surge will be highest along the centerline path in the eastern side of the storm. Remember, with a counterclockwise storm, your south winds pulling into the island will be on the east side. The north winds actually driving the water away from the island will be on the west side. So that's another reason why it really does matter exactly where the storm makes landfall. The farther west that it goes, more of the island is under the south winds and the influence of the onshore winds and the potential for some devastating storm surge. Okay, again, I've been doing this for a long time. You guys know I don't hype storms. These numbers that we're about ready to talk about are about as significant as I've ever forecasted for an area. And of course, a lot of this that we're going to be talking about comes right in line with the Hurricane Center. If you take any part of this video on Jamaica, this is the graphic to clip and to share with your family and friends. The entire island is likely to see life-threatening impacts. The timing is through Tuesday, so this is now through the entire storm. We should begin to see things get a little bit better throughout the day on Wednesday. For eastern parishes, storm totals are likely to be 15 to 25 inches of rain, maybe even up to 35 inches of rain. That is nearly 3 feet of rain for the eastern parishes. That's 375 to 625 millimeters through the storm, beginning now through Tuesday evening, all right? The significant, again, whatever word you want to use, devastating, life-threatening flooding that is likely to occur with this storm probably can't be calculated. Those low-lying areas are likely to flood very quickly. We're likely to have fast-moving water. Obviously, utility issues are likely to come along with this storm as well, and some isolation, roads being cut off, communities being cut off from other areas because of the flooding that is to occur. The western parishes, again, based on the track through the center of the island, 5 to 15 inches. Now, I think even Negril and Montego Bay and Savlamar get 5 to 10. Okay, then you get a little bit more inland and it's 10 to 15, which is still really significant. I mean, really significant. St. James, St. Elizabeth, maybe Trelawney and Manchester, you get that 10 to 15, right? But it could even be locally higher. These numbers could be low, it just depends. Now, again, the winds, these are forecast to be 120 to 155 mile an hour sustained winds. Sustained winds over the islands, gusts even higher. When you have a storm, if it comes on shore with a sustained wind of 155, there are likely to be gusts to around 190 miles an hour. The devastation that these winds are likely to occur, again, could be historic. And I think this will end up being a historic storm if it makes landfall on the island as the Hurricane Center is forecasting. And again, that storm surge, especially on the eastern and the southern coastlines, is likely to be 7 to 11 feet above ground level. And that might be conservative, right? I'll have to see what the Hurricane Center wants to do over the next couple of days. They kind of start conservative sometimes and they build that number up as we get closer to actual landfall. For the Dominican Republic and Haiti, for the life of the storm, again, it's the same kind of rainfall out west, 50 to 25 inches along the peninsula and the western sides of Haiti, and locally up to 35 inches, 625 millimeters. They will get sustained tropical storm conditions through Tuesday as well. They could get some gusts to the hurricane force strength as well, and they will also continue to see very large swells of 10 to 20 feet, 3 meters to 6 meters. So even well away from this storm, we are getting sustained high-end tropical storm conditions. Some hurricane gusts are likely on the western side of Hispaniola, and just more rain than we can handle. And that is already ongoing through the island of Hispaniola. They will see the same impacts as far as areas being cut off, life-threatening flooding, and just devastating flooding across the area. Now, again, I've got a lot of live coverage coming up on the channel. If you're a vlogger in Jamaica and you're interested in the collaboration, email me at mymediamundo@gmail.com and we'll go over some of the details for you guys. This is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. I imagine I will be on live for probably 4, maybe even 5 days in a row. So starting tomorrow, we know it's going to be a hurricane. I will have live coverage here on the Meteo Mundo YouTube channel for the direct impacts for Jamaica. And obviously we'll be covering the storm on Monday and Tuesday across the island, and for other areas probably Wednesday and into Thursday. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel and you have the notifications on so you know when I go live. There's not a set time as of yet. You guys also know I'll be running the live radar system of the Meteo Mundo channel as well. That will begin this afternoon. Not long after this video is published, you'll see the live radar system come into the air, come back online as well. All right, let's get into real quickly what I expect for the rest of our area. Now, we could still see some significant rainfall over portions of Puerto Rico, but likely it's just going to be some breezy conditions and some squalls. And we could get some breezy conditions over portions of the Virgin Islands and the Leeward Islands as well. But down the road, we're going to keep a very close eye on southeast sides of Cuba and then into portions of the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. Now, with the Hurricane Center's latest update, Cat 3 to Cat 2 over Cuba, and then Cat 2 more than likely into the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos, not becoming a Cat 1 until it's away from the island. So we're more than likely right now in the Hurricane Center expecting to see some sustained winds in the southeast Bahamas that could be 90 to 100 miles an hour sustained, including Turks and Caicos, and Grand Turk is already getting some 35-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Rain will be moving in, squalls will be freshening as well. And even on the western side of the storm, we could kick up some tropical storm conditions for the central sides of the Bahamas, but especially even the northwest sides of the Bahamas, even on up towards Grand Bahama, Freeport, Lucaya, Nassau, New Providence. Wednesday, Thursday could have some tropical storm conditions. But obviously on the center line track and east is where I'm most concerned about the more direct impacts for those areas. But obviously, we've got a little bit of time, but I'm telling you right now, you live in the southeast Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, you want to start making the preps for the likelihood of hurricane conditions in your area beginning as early as late Tuesday, and then more than likely through the day on Wednesday and into Thursday as well. All right, out of all of these things you guys see, the most important thing is to share this channel with your family and friends and anyone you think gets something out of it. Let's spread this information as a fantastic Meteo Mundo weather community. I appreciate you guys helping me out in that way. Always like the likes, always like the subscriptions, and I appreciate those who support the channel as well. You can follow us across our social media platforms. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, and Facebook. Again, send me a picture or video in your area. Even if you're not a vlogger, you just want to send me a picture or video you're being impacted by this storm. The easiest way to do that is mymeteomundo@gmail.com. Please remember that Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the Lien Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. They offer free consultation and policy reviews, so you really do have nothing to lose. Go to lienonmelaw.com if you would like more information. Our thoughts, our prayers are with our friends in Jamaica, Hispaniola, and other areas that are likely to be impacted by this devastating hurricane. Again, look for our live stream to kick up starting this afternoon, and then I will be on live beginning on Sunday. We're going to have a lot of coverage for you guys with this storm, so stick right here to Meteo Mundo for the latest. Please take this storm very seriously and make sure your preparations across these areas are done by the end of today. Friends, I'll see you soon right here at Meteo Mundo.